Hello and welcome to episode 0 of What's Going with Owen and Maggie. I am Owen.
And I'm Maggie.
And we are going. I feel like we are a little ill-prepared here, but that's why it's a 0 episode.
This is really just sort of a test run.
Yeah.
Other than our initial test run, which is the fabled lost episode.
The fabled lost episode.
Yes. Which now I can't recount any of the fascinating stories I told you on that evening.
You talked to me about Archie,
I
which
talked
I
to
didn't
you
know much about.
about Archie comics a lot.
And we talked about Cerberus, the aardvark.
Yep, Cerberus the aardvark.
I probably talked about Ultimate Spider-Man and...
you did a little bit of Ultimates explaining to me.
Yeah. Which is fine. We can go over that stuff again. I repeat myself a lot, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, I still like, I can tell the story about how I was out at a bar the other night, and it was like a trivia night, and one of the questions was, is this an obscure X-Man or a sex position?
Oh, yeah.
And I sent you a message, and I was like, I don't know 2 of them.
And I was like, it's a trick question. They're all X-Men.
I know, which you were. But I said the Ultimates one should not count. That doesn't count.
I feel like it counts.
Just me. But we weren't actually playing the trivia game. It was just I was sitting there talking to my friend, and I hear this guy on a microphone say, the Stepford Cuckoos. And I was like, what? Someone has invoked an X-Man. I must pay attention.
I would love for us to do a whole episode just like deconstructing my feelings on the Grant Morrison era of X-Men.
Yeah. Have you read them all now?
The Grant Morrison?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read them. It was one where like I was just getting into X-Men because of the Explain the X-Men podcast, and I had always heard it was amazing, and so I bought them all super cheap at my local comic shop, and they were like the digest size. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Sure.
Never buy those, by the way. They're all really badly printed, and the binding will always fall out.
Oh.
But I got about 2 volumes in, and I was like, am I missing something? This isn't very good. And I dropped it for like a year. Okay.
And it was only, I liked portions of it and not other portions of it, but it was also some of the first stuff that I ever read, because the way my Marvel read sort of went was I came into the group and I said, okay, I'm trying to watch all the MCU stuff, so now I'm trying to read the comics, and I feel like I should start with Civil War since Civil War's coming out, and all you guys were like,
And this was before we were really friends. You were just like a listener that I didn't know that well. Yeah. But I do remember you writing in being like, so what should I read? I'm going to start with Civil War. And I was like, first of all, don't be silly. You can't read all the comics, which you have proved me wrong on.
I haven't read all the comics, but I've read a lot of them.
But I was right in saying, dear God, don't start with Civil War.
Well, but it was actually good in a way, because in starting by reading Civil War, I went, oh, I don't understand any of this. I don't know who that is or who that is or who that is. And so it made me start going back and reading older stuff. And that made me go back and read older stuff and older stuff and older stuff, and then kind of go from there. And I basically, the Grant Morrison stuff was my stopping point for X-Men. I was like, I'm not going anywhere before the turn of the millennium. That's it.
That's probably a good idea.
Oh, because it would just get...
Well, and the 90s is terrible.
Okay. Well, I just read some of the 80s stuff, and it was pretty terrible, too. And I know that's probably blasphemous, but I was like...
I get where you're coming from. Like, I wouldn't have recommended it to you, because it is very dated and very heavy-handed. But everything from that era was, because it was a time when most comics were bought from the newsstand.
Right.
So you kind of had to have people, like, repeating themselves, so it was a lot easier to kind of jump in.
Right. And but it was kind of frustrating to be reading it like episode after episode, and there just are constant asterisks like, see last issue, and I'm like, I did see the last issue. I just read it 4 minutes ago. You don't... Maddie Pryor does not need to tell me who Jean Grey is. Like, I'm on top of this. We don't need any of this.
I've read comic books and seen movies.
This is not useful.
Yeah. It's a shame too, because a lot of that stuff is like very imaginative, and like basically everything that's come after it has been kind of derivative of it. Like it was very groundbreaking and really cool when it came out. But yeah, it hasn't aged well.
No.
I think the best way to experience that era of X-Men is to listen to the Explain the X-Men podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, which you've mentioned to me a lot, so.
I have, but not everyone can, like, listen to, like, 8 hours of podcasts a day, which I get to do at my job.
Very true, yeah. No, I've basically now read every X-Men comic from Grant Morrison's run through Avengers versus X-Men, and I'm up to that.
Which is impressive. Like, I've been reading comics for 15, 16 years now, like a while. Mm-hmm. I'm young, but like I've listened to comics and, you know.
This is in like the course of a year.
Yeah. And you're like catching up to me and know plenty of shit that I don't. So within like another year, you'll know way more than I do.
Well, but I'm just going to know more recent stuff and you'll know older stuff. But, you know, and I've already forgotten half of it, I'm sure, because I
Plenty of it is very forgettable, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. Anytime they go into space, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to kind of check
that's
out
the thing. Have you read the Dark Phoenix saga?
No, I have not actually gone back and read Dark Phoenix.
When I was a kid, I started reading comics from my dad's collection in the probably late 90s to early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And it was just before comics really got into like bookstores and before trades were a big thing. But one of the only trades I only had maybe 3 growing up. One of them was the Dark Phoenix saga. Mm-hmm. And I loved it growing up. Like that kind of heavy-handed, kind of overwrote prose style from back then, I feel like is much more kid friendly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like, sure.
You know, grabbing onto stuff, and it's, you know, before Marvel Unlimited or Wikipedia when you could just research everything.
Right, that's the thing. I can always go back and fill in the blanks and like see what I missed on Wikipedia, which is cheating, but whatever.
It's not cheating. I think it's great that people can actually like keep up with this shit because, to be fair, like in the 80s, there was only 20 years worth of continuity to keep up with, and even less if it was the X-Men because it got canceled. Yeah, for a while there in like the 70s.
And there weren't as many titles. I feel like maybe in the mid 80s there were like 4. Right? Was there Uncanny?
No, in mid 80s.
X-Force, X Factor.
No X-Force yet.
There's X Factor though. That's what I was reading the other day.
And that was like 86 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, because, not until like 82 or 3, there were 2. There was X-Men and then New Mutants came out. And then X Factor came out in like 86. Right. And there was those 3 until like, I mean, if you count the Wolverine solo series, like a few years after that. But it wasn't until the 90s that there started being like a ton of X-Men.
And now it's just insane. I mean, the bunch that I read from after House of M, there's just a zillion of them.
There's too many.
And most of them aren't very good. I really enjoyed X Factor a lot.
Which X Factor?
The one with Madrox.
That's the thing. There's like
I know that's the thing. Is if you say
X Factor teams, is that the X Factor Investigations one?
Yeah. So it's Madrox and Monet and Siren and Wolfsbane and Richter, and it's whatever Strong Man is, Guido.
Strong Guy,
yeah.
I love Strong Guy because he named himself Strong Guy to be a dick.
He's the strong guy, so it makes sense.
A strong guy, and he looks like a Jersey Shore like caricature.
Totally. But yeah, that one was really good. And then I didn't love the X-Force that they did pretty much right after that, but I like
Is that the one with all the Cable clones?
Were there Cable clones?
Because that one sounded cool. X-Force or X-Factor?
X-Force. The first one I'm thinking of is the one that had Warpath in it, and
that's the one after the Dark Angel one, right?
Yeah. No, Dark Angel, that's the one with
Phantom X.
Yeah, with Phantom X constantly trying to get into Psylocke's pants, which that was the one that or tights, whatever is on her bottom half. Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot, except for the Captain Britain stuff that always bores me. Captain Britain just bores
I haven't made it there yet.
I also just didn't like the art in that section either. So
yeah, I found more and more the older I get, the more art is a turnoff for me.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of art I'll accept has kind of broadened.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you know, when I was younger, I thought Jim Lee was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And my best friend Chase, who will come up on this because we are, like, equal on, like, our love of comic books, but we always come at it from different sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his favorite artist is Jim Lee, and I just can't take Jim Lee and how his faces all look the same, and how he made the entire DC universe look like 90s X-Men characters, and not in a good way. And yet I'll like go back and look at like Bill Sienkiewicz-y, like crazy sketchy stuff that's like very stylized, and I'll be like, well, I don't know if I like this as much as some people do, but I kind of appreciate what they're going for more.
Right. I think they started doing a lot of kind of teeny boppery anime influence stuff around the turn of the millennium with. The first thing I noticed it in was with Runaways, exactly. And Runaways starts off pretty subdued with that. Like, that's definitely the style they're going for, but it's chill. Mm-hmm. But after the Joss section of it, when they bring in, I don't know who they bring in after Joss. I haven't finished, but it's
Runaways, terrible. But I've heard once Joss Whedon like comes on, it gets pretty bad.
Once Joss comes on, it gets bad. Once Joss leaves, it gets almost unreadable, whoever they come in to do after that. It has like this Howard Stern shock jock turning people into zombies plot line. And it's awful, and the art is just, it makes me not want to have anything to do with it.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I haven't read any of the new Runaways stuff because I know they have another one. It's kind of been, I think Noelle Stevenson's been working on it.
I don't think there was a Runaways Secret Wars tie-in.
Was that all it was?
Maybe, because right now some of the Runaways are on an Avengers team called Avengers something.
I think
that's the problem with modern comics is they everything is a spin-off of a like more well-known title.
Right. I just read, it wasn't New Avengers. What was it? Avengers Academy. I just read all the Avengers Academy ones. And then I know that a bunch of the kids from Avengers Academy and some of the kids from Runaways and some of the kids from New X-Men end up in
Avengers Arena?
In Avengers Arena, yeah.
Maggie, Miles and Anton recommended Avengers Arena. Did you see Battle Royale? Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it?
I was like, it was fine.
It's because that's basically what it is.
It's basically what it is. Yeah, no, I figured.
No, I enjoyed it a lot. Like, it was one of those ones. I'm a very slow reader, especially nowadays. I have a much shorter attention span, especially for reading. But that was one of the ones where, like, I got the little tiny trades, and like I'd go out in the yard and have a beer and read a few, and I would find myself like working all the way through the one and just immediately going in the house and ordering the next volume. So that was actually in the comics I read last year. That was one of my favorite titles, probably. Okay. So I recommend that one. It was like, and I hadn't read Avengers Academy. I wasn't that familiar with that many characters, but I do really love Arcade as like a goofy.
Yeah, he is very goofy. I can't even remember what I've seen him pop up in. I think probably like little mini X-Men arcs or things like that, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, Arcade's here for 3 issues.
Hey, I know you've been fighting characters with pathos like Magneto and mutants so powerful they think they're gods, like Apocalypse. But now let's introduce this goofy guy in like a white leisure suit with a giant bow tie and his murder carnival.
Murder carnival, exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm up to. I've managed to read all the way through all the Avengers titles, all the X-Men titles from 2000 to Avengers versus to AVX, yeah.
So are you actually, I think you said you were reading AVX right now?
I'm right about to start it. I've cleared everything else off except for the Daredevil stuff that comes after Shadowland because I just needed a break.
That's right, you read Shadowland. I didn't even warn you.
No, everybody warned me. I was aware.
I will say I do like that suit. I like the black and red suit. I think it looks cool.
Yeah. On top of the X-Men stuff that I read and the Avengers stuff that I read, I did read a shit ton of Daredevil, and it all kind of blended together in my head after a while. But I read everything from the Kevin Smith ones, which I think were started in '98, and I read all the way through Shadowland.
Hey, those were a hit when they came out.
They were interesting. I'm interested to see if they decide to do with what they did there with Karen on the show. Could be neat.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might be watching this, but I
keep kind of like edging around it when I'm watching the show with Natasha, and we talk about like the secrets of Karen Page, and I'm like, look, she has many potential secrets.
Look, it's Kevin Smith writing a superhero book. The female characters are not going to be.
Not going to be. Yeah. No. Did you see the picture from it that? I put it on Facebook at one point, and it's like Bullseye is holding up a book, and it has reviews on the back of it, and the reviews are by Jay and Silent Bob. And I'm like, this is what happens when you let Kevin Smith write one of your marquee comic books.
Hey, I will say this for the Kevin Smith Daredevil thing. I don't think they're very good. I haven't actually read them. I've read 2 Daredevil stories in my life. I read Daredevil Yellow because that's my favorite color, and it was in my high school library.
It's your favorite color.
Well, I have
a good reason.
I have a soft spot for that terrible yellow Daredevil costume. It's an awful color, but
Ryan says you're adorable, by the way.
But it really pops on the page, especially when you do that like noirish Daredevil style. And I do recommend that book. It looks really pretty.
Yeah, it is. I've read that one. It's good.
And I read the. Did we talk about Acts of Vengeance?
No, I thought you were going to read Man Without Fear, but I don't think we talked about Acts of Vengeance.
Acts of Vengeance was an event in Marvel in like the late 80s. And the shtick of it was all the villains like got together in the the meeting room at a Holiday Inn, and they're like, listen, we always lose and it sucks. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, Magneto, you're going to tell, like, Kingpin everything you know about the X-Men and how much they suck. And you, Kingpin, are going to tell Magneto about how to beat up Daredevil. And you're going to swap that knowledge, and you're going to fight the other team. Which is not a bad shtick, but do you know who Daredevil had to fight?
Who?
He fought Ultron.
How'd that go? He apparently beat him.
He had help from the least awful Inhuman, Karnak, whose superpower is that he can like sense weak spots.
Right.
And they also like it was one of those deals where there were like a million Ultron robots before that became like Ultron shtick. That used to be like a crazy new idea. And one of the Ultrons was good, and he was like, "Oh God, all these Ultrons are evil. I'll help you, Daredevil." But more importantly, the first 2...
Isn't that kind of what happened with the Skrull imposter who thought he was Captain Marvel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. He was like, wait, I'm really a Skrull? My whole life has been a lie. I will have to help all of you superheroes. I don't know. I've blocked out a lot of Secret Invasion, too.
I didn't read it. There's so many that I was just like, no, this looks bad. And I feel like that's how I'm able to still enjoy comic books, is I just kind of have an innate sense for series that I'm like, no, I won't like this.
The only one that I've really pretty much skipped a big chunk of was Fear itself. I read the first couple, and then I went, no. And I
feel bad because it's Matt Fraction, who is a pretty great writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when I first came back into comics. I came back my freshman year of college, and I was mostly reading DC, but that was the big Marvel event when I came back. I was like, well, I'll try this out. It seems like a cool shtick. Even if they're like ripping off, it felt to me like they were ripping off Blackest Night. Because Blackest Night, it was like all the different DC characters got like lantern rings. And this was like, let's give all the different Marvel characters hammers. And I was like, well, that could still be neat. I enjoyed Blackest Night. And that was like a whole lot of meh.
Yeah, it was not good. The only ones that were kind of good were there were some New Mutants tie-ins to it that were okay, but that's because Danny actually has like a connection to Hela, so it sort of made sense. It wasn't just like and now all the characters are going to fight people from Asgard. And I'm like, really? I don't think any of this has anything to do with anything. This is bananas.
So you've read the newest New Mutants series.
Which one?
Whichever one from the 2000s. It's the only.
Oh yeah, yeah.
New Mutants growing up. That was one of the ones that was in my dad's long boxes, and I have a real fondness for that series.
Yeah, I know.
And if I were to recommend anything from the previous version, I would recommend they did 2 annuals. It was a New Mutants annual and then an X-Men annual, where the New Mutants got trapped in Asgard because. Loki looked down at Midgard and was like, this Storm lady is pretty hot. She's babysitting these teens. And the first annual is just the New Mutants trying to get accustomed to Asgard. Mm-hmm. And then the second annual is the X-Men coming to save their asses. And that is maybe my favorite X-Men story.
Oh, okay.
So I do recommend that one. I haven't reread it in a long time, so it probably doesn't hold up quite as well as I remember it to.
That tends to happen with things you loved in childhood. But
I do remember the part where Bobby meets the Warriors 3, and Volstagg is like, if thou art so mighty, thou must lift me. And he sits on a bench and makes Sunspot lift him up. And
how'd that go?
I bet it is. He throws out his back. But he manages to do it, and the Warriors 3 take him out to a bar. So, it's pretty great.
That's perfect. No, I like those. I like all the New Mutant stuff. In general, I enjoy those characters. So it's nice that they're still around. But I'm looking forward to getting through AVX so I can read all the stuff that spun out of that for the X-Men, because I hear especially really good things about, I guess, All New X-Men. I've read a couple issues of that.
All New X-Men is my favorite.
Yeah, and I've read a couple of issues, and I really liked it, and I'm like, yeah, but I should stop and go back and read the stuff before it, so I kind of know what's going on a little bit better.
All New X-Men, to those who may not be familiar with it, the X-Men have had this shtick since, I keep saying shtick more than I feel like is merited, but the X-Men, ever since the 80s, have had the whole Days of Future Past thing where, they encounter, the horrible dystopian evil future where things are terrible for mutants. And they did it in the 80s with Days of Future Past, and they never were able to stop. And they did it over and over again. And, it's this crazy new future. And, because Xavier died in an alternate timeline, Apocalypse rules the Earth.
Yeah, so Age of Apocalypse, there's a whole bunch of
those. The thing about All New X-Men is Beast goes back in time and brings the original X-Men to the future, where things are really terrible for the X-Men. The current timeline of Marvel Comics is a dark dystopian X-Men future.
For those, yeah, exactly.
That's such a great, turning it on its head thing. And it's the best I feel those original 6 X-Men or original 5 X-Men have ever been written. It's the only time I've ever read anything with Angel, just vanilla Angel, where he's actually a nuanced and interesting character in any way. He's still the worst, but he's interesting.
Well, I don't even know what happened to Angel after X-Force. They sent him back to Xavier Academy, and he kind of didn't remember anything about anything. He was sort of brainwashed.
From what I understand it, and I'm actually, it's right here on my table. I'm not finished with it yet. I'm in the middle of the Dark Angel saga. But from what I understand, Angel gets basically lobotomized by Psylocke and loses his memories. Mm-hmm. And so when Angel comes to the future, he meets current Angel, who's this hippie looking dude with long hair who thinks he's an actual angel. It's he's kind of like Lockhart at the end of Chamber of Secrets.
Oh dear.
And Angel's just like, what happened to you? And he's like, what are you talking about? Life is great. And he's like, what? And he goes to the school and he's like, what's the deal with him? And they're like, well, he's got his wings ripped off, and then he got turned into the Avatar of Death by this mutant god named Apocalypse. And then he was okay for a while, but he was really sad with these metal wings, and he was blue, literally blue. And then he got turned into Apocalypse. It's kind of a long story, but right now, all you need to know is he's crazy and brain damaged, and that's what you have to look forward to.
Great. Can we talk for a second about Angel in the most recent movie and how his part in the most recent movie was probably my least favorite?
Yes, yeah. I didn't really want to talk about not Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse. So yeah, because we haven't actually gotten to talk about it. Like,
not really. I've talked a bunch about how I would love for there to be an X-Force movie based on that particular book, and I just don't see it being possible.
They couldn't do it.
Well, I mean, obviously they couldn't do it in and of itself anyway, but they definitely can't do it at all with the way that they have Psylocke and Angel set up as characters, because they're not characters.
And also Angel dies horribly.
Yeah. So they're not going to do that.
The part of me that has always hated Angel really like giggled at that shit, but he was not done well. Although I do love his transformation with the Four Horsemen Metallica song playing.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But his character was just garbage. I'm like, that's not Angel's backstory. What the hell? He's in like a fight club in Germany? What the fuck is this? And I don't know, that was just awful. And Psylocke looked cool, and Olivia Munn was really game, I felt like, but they didn't give her anything to work with either. She
had no motivation other than not liking her boss.
Yeah, which I wouldn't like him either. Who was that again?
That was Caliban.
Yeah, it was Caliban.
Who was also nothing like his personality of his comic character. Because the comic character is super like emo and kind of like unsure of himself and sad. Like mostly sad.
So not this at all.
So not an entrepreneur. I actually liked the movie Caliban.
Yeah, he was cool, but I just didn't understand like A, what Psylocke was really doing there, and B, why she wanted to leave, and C, anything about what her motivations were. But it was cool when she cut that car in half.
It was cool when she cut that car in half.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I used to really dislike Olivia Munn because she was on...
Oh, I did too. On The Daily Show, she was awful.
Oh, I didn't know she was on The Daily Show? I knew her from Attack of the Show.
Right.
Did you ever watch that?
No, but I knew that's where she kind of got famous.
It was this geek, like, tech show, but she was very much, like, the hot girl that we have hired. Like, that is her thing. And, like, she was marketed in a way that even when I was, like, 17 and a very horny teenager, I was just like, this is kind of gross. Yeah. I don't like this. Mm-hmm. But I kind of, like, attributed that to Olivia Munn when it's not really Olivia Munn's fault.
No, exactly.
Like, she's got bills to pay. Like, good for her.
No, I like her now.
Show, but
I didn't. She was on The Daily Show briefly because they were like, "We need a female correspondent. Let's steal her from Attack the Show," and she just wasn't funny. And I was like, why'd they just bring in this hot chick? She's boring. And so they dumped her and just did more stuff with Kristen Schaal for a while, I guess, to kind of cover that particular.
No, I don't think comedy niche. When I think of her. Sadly, really the only thing I think of is her looks, because that's all I've ever really seen.
She's gorgeous, so, you know.
She really is.
She's, like, insanely gorgeous, so I understand why they should put her in movies wearing spandex.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you see that Facebook post that I, like, reposted that was, I will always remember X-Men Apocalypse as the movie where Olivia Munn walked around Auschwitz in a ninja bathing suit?
Yes, I did see that. The reverence.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because I recognize her from a very uncinematic thing, because I found her very distracting. Like, there's the scene where Apocalypse is, like, standing by the portal, and they're, like, luring Magneto to follow them. Oh, no! Maggie disappeared. Well, now I'm sad. Is she still here? She's here. Okay, here she
goes. I'm back. Sorry. I clicked on something stupidly and everything disappeared.
That's okay.
Bad. We're good.
Yeah, do you remember that scene where they're like, where Magneto's going to follow them maybe, and they're all like looking at him like, be one of us, Magneto?
Yeah.
And her face is just like this, she's making this weird face and like posing, just like... It's very odd.
Yeah, she's not... I don't think she's a great actress, but
no,
we'll see.
I have to admire, like, clearly she's the one who, like, took her choreography and shit the most seriously and, like, in the gym all the time and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you know, good on you, Olivia Munn.
Yeah. She was into it. I wish they'd given her more opportunities to do interesting things. So... We'll see.
Yeah. I loved Mohawk Storm, though. Like, when I've seen it both times, there's this little featurette where the actress who plays Storm comes on. It's like, "Hey, thanks for watching the movie. We had a lot of fun making it." And I'm just like, "She's so cute."
I have heard that she may or may not be sleeping with James McAvoy, and that's why James McAvoy is getting divorced.
How old is she, though?
Like 24-ish.
Oh, okay.
23.
She looks so young to me.
She looks so young. But okay.
I
want to look it up now. But yeah, because he's my age. He was born in 79, I think. Or 78, or, you know.
I love McAvoy. I just have never liked Professor X, so I'm always very torn.
Right.
Like, I always love him when I'm watching the movies, but I'm never, like, thinking about how great he is.
Yeah, no, I love him, but what's her name? Alexandra Shipp?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought she was really good, but again, she didn't have very many character moments either.
No, but she got more than any of the other horsemen, really, other than Magneto, obviously.
Magneto. She's all the attention.
She's almost 25.
Okay, so she's not that much younger than that.
That's not too bad. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, is that Natasha?
Natasha's on. And I feel like we've been neglecting our listeners here. Trevor mentioned that my favorite color is yellow because of mustard.
Because of mustard. And Trevor can comment now, which I didn't realize was a thing. That's cool. I liked Ryan's comment about what advice could Kingpin give to Magneto and how to defeat Daredevil.
Just be Magneto. Hey, my favorite.
We'll go pretty quickly.
I say my favorite. I haven't read that much Daredevil, but I always like Daredevil when he's fighting someone he's completely outclassed by, kind of like Captain America. Mm-hmm. So
makes him more inventive.
Like one of the very early Silver Age stories was this story where he had to try and stop Namor, and he's basically just like holding onto his leg and like super beat up, you know.
Did Deadpool give? Who did he? Deadpool. Krista says like Deadpool giving him an MP3 player.
What
is that the thing you posted earlier about? Deadpool told Daredevil that an MP3 player was a bomb. That sounds like something Matt Murdock would totally fall for, so I believe it.
Man, Deadpool was one of those characters that I really loved when I was about 19, and I read a lot of Deadpool comics until I just got completely sick of him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm reading some of that stuff now, and I read about like 20 issues of Cable and Deadpool.
Oh, that's one of the good ones.
I thought it was okay. I just find Cable really boring, and I find Deadpool really entertaining. Mm-hmm. And the two of them together, I was like, I don't know. Maybe it'll get better once they turn it into Deadpool and Cable. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So, yes, Deadpool is definitely the Klugman of that pairing.
I did love the movie. And like
the Deadpool movie? Oh, yeah, the Deadpool movie.
And I still like him as a character. I just don't like him as this, like, omnipresent brand where, like, every variant cover has Deadpool on it.
Sure.
And where, like, you know, people I see in Walmart are wearing, like, tacky Deadpool T-shirts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to like Deadpool in other people's stuff. Like anytime he shows up in a different book, I'm like, wee, Deadpool's here. Mm-hmm. But anything that's like all Deadpool all the time, I'm like, that's a little much.
I'll tell you what I recommend for Deadpool.
Bye, Tosh.
Are you leaving? Oh, bye. I recommend Cable Deadpool. I think that one's fun. I recommend the Evil Deadpool arc.
Okay, when does that happen?
It was probably now it was probably like 5 years ago, but it's okay. Since I had the floppies of it, in which he like meets like these discarded body parts that had been like dumped in a dumpster of him that someone had been collecting, and it reforms into Evil Deadpool.
Ooh!
And he's wearing like all these like different like costumes that he was wearing over the years, and it's all like stitched together. And it's basically
so it's like Frank and Deadpool.
Yeah, it's Deadpool fighting himself.
Oh, okay.
And evil Deadpool is only marginally more evil than regular Deadpool.
So Brian wanted to know if I'm interested in DC stuff.
You're not that into it, right?
Well, so here's the thing. The stuff that I read in high school was mostly DC, but it wasn't ever DC
universe. It was Vertigo.
It was Vertigo stuff. Yeah. So I read a ton of Vertigo stuff, but never the superhero stuff. So I don't know a ton of that particular mythology. I know more of Batman than anything else, but Superman has always bored the bejesus out of me. Very little interest in
Maggie. I wish you wouldn't say that.
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. Like, one of these days, I would like for us to like talk about, like, do a Superman episode.
All right. Where you convince me.
Well, the thing about Superman is, like, I really love Superman and like what he represents, but I think in a lot of ways he's like Captain America for me, where like I like the best that Superman can be when he's done well, but I don't necessarily want to read like a monthly Superman book because like he is kind of square, and especially like the whole overpowered thing.
Exactly.
Like, I get, but that said, like I think All-Star Superman is one of the best.
You have mentioned that to me, yeah.
And it's definitely the best thing Grant Morrison ever wrote.
Okay. Yeah, you have mentioned that to me in the past. No, I mean, Sandman was sort of my big thing, so I got into Sandman and basically anything that Gaiman was doing around the same time. So I read some Black Orchid and...
Did you read Marvel 1602?
Oh, yeah. And that was entertaining. So here's the thing. I read 1602 without knowing anything about Marvel. So it was kind of fun for me to try and figure out who people were with my very rudimentary knowledge that was from like the first... Well, so the first X-Men movie had been out at that point, so I'd seen the first X-Men movie.
The commercial for the Daredevil movie.
The commercial for the Daredevil movie, so I was able to figure out that was Daredevil. I was like, oh, he's got red hair and he's blind. That's Daredevil. Okay, we got that one sorted. No idea. I didn't know who Nick Fury was. I didn't know who Stephen Strange was. They both show up really early. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck these guys are. When Captain America turned out to be Captain America, didn't see that coming.
The blonde white Indian?
Yeah, I totally missed that. I was like, what?
I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, I did not know who Black Widow was, so I didn't get that.
I forgot she was in that.
Yeah, and there was... I think some people from Fantastic Four were in it, but I don't know if all of them were. I don't remember.
They all were.
Okay. And then I was very proud of myself for figuring out Magneto was Magneto. Hi, Natasha.
She's crashing my show with a cat.
That's a very cute cat.
I'm not allowed to do this when she was recording. My show doesn't rate.
Oh, look at that kitty. That's a cute kitty. My cat has left. My cat was like, fuck this, and wandered off. She's done with me.
I don't have that amazing hair, Owen. You don't know that, Krista.
Natasha's hair is pretty incredible right now. It looks
really good.
It's insanely good.
Did you see where I said it was 80s Psylocke?
Yeah, Psylocke hair. I like that. It looks fantastic. So I know it took her all day, but it was worth it because it looks awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I like 1602, but I remember the ending just kind of being...
very, very much so.
But I listen to a comic podcast regularly called War Rocket Ajax, where they rank every story ever. Mm-hmm. And they described it as being a very enjoyable Tumblr photo set. Where like someone has like done like their own like redesigns of characters from Victorian times, and that's basically what that comic is.
Yeah,
and they're not entirely wrong.
Sort of steampunk Marvel
fan
art.
I really like that Daredevil though, where he's like the bard, the wandering bard. That
was entertaining. He was one of my preferred characters in that book. But I reread it relatively recently when I was doing the Marvel reread, because I was like, okay, now that I've read 500 issues of Marvel Comics, why don't I go see how many of these I can pick out now? And I understood it way better.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily liked it anymore, but I understood it more.
Definitely. I remember liking the X-Men from that universe. like Xavier is like a nobleman, but there aren't wheelchairs in that era, so he like being crippled back then is even worse.
Right.
But like there's Quicksilver, whose entire job it is to just run and like deliver messages.
Yes, that's right.
That sounds awful.
I'd forgotten about that. Yes.
And Jean Grey, it sucks to be Jean Grey in Victorian era, only slightly more than it sucks to be Jean Grey in the 1960s. Just like, you are the woman.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or just Jean Grey. Oh, what did you think of the Sophie Turner?
I thought she was good. I thought she did a good job. Yeah.
Some people are saying that she's like super flat and not acting well. I think that is just like that version's characters. Like she's very kind of repressed. And it reminded me of the all-new X-Men version of Jean Grey, which is what made me love Jean Grey.
Yeah, I thought she had more personality than Famke Janssen did in the other movies. So
yeah, Sophie Turner was never a Bond villainess who squeezed people to death with her thighs.
That is true. So she does not have that going for her. But there are 2 more seasons of Game of Thrones yet to go, so we'll see. Never put it past them.
That's what they should have done with the whole Ramsay thing last season. She should have crushed him with her thighs.
Or just gone full Dark Phoenix.
Krista, I am drinking Cook's Extra Dry Champagne.
Ryan, you are right. Some of her accent work was not top notch, but that's true of everybody in that series in X-Men. Sophie Turner in X-Men.
I didn't notice it.
The one that kills me is from I think it was from First Class, where there's one scene where James McAvoy and Fassbender are arguing outside of Xavier's house. And as soon as they step outside and start arguing, James McAvoy's accent starts slipping. And then once his accent starts slipping, Fassbender's accent starts slipping. And they just get like more and more Scottish and Irish as the scene goes on. Like you can tell, like they're getting angry at each other and fighting, and their accents just get crazier and crazier. And I'm like, you guys do not sound like your characters at all anymore.
I'm just an accent enthusiast, not an expert. Like I like accents, but Scottish and Irish usually I am not able to distinguish them.
Well, you don't need to distinguish them from each other, but they definitely sound different from the clipped British accent that McAvoy normally has in the rest of the movie, and then every now and then one of his R's kind of gives him away. But that particular scene was really rough.
Did you ever see Die Another Day?
No.
With Pierce Brosnan?
You're gonna kill me. I've never seen a single Bond movie.
Look, I won't kill you, but you should watch the damn because those are actually good.
Okay.
Like I love all of the Bond. Well, not
I know,
but those are actually good movies. Well, some of them are. The newest one wasn't very good, but all the other ones are pretty good.
I don't know. It's become one of those things where at this point I'm like, I've never seen any Bond movies, so maybe I should just go my whole life without ever having seen a Bond movie so I can be the girl who says, I've never seen a Bond movie.
No, I'll tell you what. Do yourself a favor and only see one, and that should be Casino Royale.
Okay.
That is probably the only one that I can say is legitimately like a
good movie.
Like it's pretty well written. It's got like really, the best acting for sure. It's got Eva Green in it, which is always a plus. Okay. It's got Hannibal in it. That's pretty good.
Wait, has who?
Mads,
what's his? But,
yeah, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah,
is the Bond villain in that one. He's really good. And it has the only scene in the James Bond movie where James Bond bursts through a wall like the fucking Kool-Aid Man.
I am always a fan of that.
No, seriously.
Anytime anybody busts through a wall like a Kool-Aid Man, that's top-notch entertainment. That's all I'm looking for.
That's the only one that'll make me like emotional. Like
Casino Royale.
Yeah, like I will tear up in that movie. Like it's pretty great.
Okay.
So, but no, Die Another Day has Pierce Brosnan going real. He's just not caring in that movie, and he goes pretty hard into the Irish territory, which like I want to make fun of, but then again, like Sean Connery never hid being Scottish ever once in his life.
No, I don't think he can.
Well, and he beat his wife, so...
Yeah, no, so fuck Sean Connery, I think, is the general consensus at this point.
I agree. I want to recommend some Oh, what's the name of the old guy? I'm blanking on it. Fucking Roger Moore.
I thought that was
I want to recommend some of those because I like that guy just because it's like watching an Adam West episode of Batman. But sadly, like his first one is like a blaxploitation movie starring a white Englishman.
Yeah,
which is
that could be problematic. Yeah,
and that is arguably his best movie. So maybe skip those. So that you get really into it. Yeah, that's right. That's like I like a lot of problematic things.
Everybody does.
One of them. But the James Bond franchise as a whole is pretty tough to look past some of the horrible misogyny and racism in that franchise. So.
Yeah.
So just watch Casino Royale. That's pretty much to a minimum.
Okay. All right. So that's on my list. So, and then what's the Superman one that I'm supposed to read?
Oh, All-Star Superman.
All-Star Superman. Okay.
It is Grant Morrison-y, so like there are parts of it where you're like, what exactly is happening? But I think it's legitimately like pretty great.
Okay.
It's everything that Man of Steel is not. I don't know if you saw that movie.
And that's the thing. My physical therapist actually today asked me if I'd seen Batman versus Superman because he knows that I'm really into comic books. And I said no because I don't give a shit about Superman. So I didn't see the first one. So I didn't bother getting around to seeing this either.
But I haven't seen it either just because I refuse to see it because I love Superman so much. And I really hate Zack Snyder. Like I think he's kind of a piece of shit.
I do too.
Yeah, what were we talking about? Was that when I broke my no Facebook rule so I could like vent to someone about something horrible Zack Snyder had done?
Were you off Facebook at that point and you came back on just to vent to me about Zack Snyder? That doesn't surprise me because I will periodically say something. Yeah.
Or I contacted you through some other means. I can't remember.
Zack Snyder. Yeah, no, he's terrible. Zack Snyder, I was super excited about 300 when that came out. And then I went to see it and I was like, I would rather just watch the trailer for this about
for what?
40 for 300.
Oh, okay.
Because he did 300 first, and then he did Watchmen. And I keep thinking, like, he's really good at directing, like, 3-minute music videos with clips from these movies, but he's not good at actually making
he's a music video director first,
originally,
right?
That does not surprise me at all. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I don't like 300 either. I find it kind of gross.
Well, the book itself is also kind of weird.
Well, it was written by Frank Miller.
Yep.
And drawn.
That is true.
Yeah, do yourself a favor, Ryan Reisman. Don't revisit 300. If you enjoy, that's kind of my recommendation for anything Frank Miller ever did. If you enjoyed it the first time, good on you, but don't revisit it.
Yeah, then be done with it.
That's why I will never reread Dark Knight.
Yep. That's probably why I also have it sitting up there on the shelf, and it's not coming back down.
Yeah. Did you read it?
Mm-hmm. It was a long time ago.
No wonder you hate Superman. Like it's Frank Miller.
That's true.
I hate that is in a lot of ways not. It's like the definitive Batman story, but in being the definitive Batman story, it's a lot of people's like frame of reference for Superman. Because Frank Miller also thinks that you're not doing that.
Who is that?
I don't know, but he's not coming in. I also think like Dark Knight Returns is one of the best things Frank Miller ever did. Like there's some interesting stuff in there, but it's so Frank Miller-y, and Superman is such a fucking tool in that comic that I can't. Never again. And also, of course, he made like Catwoman a prostitute and like a sad old like. I think she runs a brothel in Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, really?
And she's like sad and is always calling Bruce and being like, Bruce.
Oh, I guess I do remember that. Yeah.
Fucking Frank Miller.
Frank Miller. No, I'm done with Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I told you when I went back and started reading Man Without Fear because everybody said you should read Man Without Fear before you watch Daredevil. I started reading it. I was like, I don't like this. And then I looked at the front and I was like, oh, because it's Frank Miller. Okay. Well, now I know.
And it's drawn by John Romita Jr., right?
Who I also don't like, yeah.
A lot of people do, and I will take their word for them that they're not like making it up that they like him because it's so many people. But like, I don't get it. Like everything is so blocky and all the faces look the same and so square.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's horrendous. Like, one of my least favorite artists, to be honest.
Honestly, I think there's a lot of interesting art happening in Marvel right now from what I'm seeing. But again, I'm still like 3 years out.
No, I'm really looking forward to it when you get to Marvel Now.
Yeah,
which was
I am too.
The big push, like before they did this whole Secret Wars all new thing.
Oh yeah,
because like all new Hawkeye or Marvel Now Hawkeye was great.
Was that that was Matt Fraction's
That was
one,
Matt
right?
Fraction and David Aja, which is like everything is in tones of purple.
Yeah,
and it is a lot better than it sounds.
I really like Matt Fraction in general, which is why it's weird that I didn't like
Fear Itself.
Yeah.
It's an event book, though, and those are so editorially mandated that
I
do not have that, I don't hold that against it. I do hold it against that War Rocket Ajax podcast I listen to. They're good friends with Matt Fraction, and sometimes when they get submissions where it's people that they know, I feel like they get a little nice because they talked about how great Fear Itself is, and I'm like, listen, Fear Itself came out 5 years ago. I don't remember what happened in it, neither do you.
No. There were people with hammers. That was it.
People with hammers, and that's it.
That is literally it. I don't think I need to know anything beyond that.
Colossus with Juggernaut, and that's pretty cool.
That is true.
And, man, that's what I want to read is about, because I fucking love the Juggernaut. I think being unstoppable is the best superpower ever.
Understandably.
And
it would be a good one to have. Come in handy.
And I would like to read some stories with that, but that era of X-Men, from what I've just kind of dipped my toe in, seems so just whatever. Like it's riding on fumes. Yeah,
it's been hard to get through, honestly, and because it's true of the Avengers books too. It's really been kind of a struggle to push through this chunk, knowing that there's going to be good stuff afterwards, and being like.
I feel like Avengers, even more than X-Men, has no business having more than 2 titles.
No, yeah.
Because X-Men, there's so many things you can do. Like you can have it be a school, you can have them have a strike force. Like you can stretch it out to a couple titles. But I feel like Avengers should be 1, 2 tops.
Well, the worst was Secret Avengers. So Secret Avengers, I guess.
Secret Avengers is like the X-Force to Avengers' X-Men.
Yeah, and it's not good. And it's like this constant rotating cast. So I would pick up the next issue and I'd be like, okay, so this week it's Captain America and Beast and Moon Knight and Captain Britain. What? See, I'm not kidding. That was the team at one point, and I'm like,
I love your disgust for Captain Britain.
He's so boring. And Moon Knight I just don't get, but I did post those pictures of people being like, why is Moon Knight on this team, which is entertaining. So at least everybody, there was a certain meta aspect to the book of why is Moon Knight here? He's crazy, right? We're supposed to follow him around. What? Yeah, no.
I've never read Moon Knight. I feel like Trevor likes Moon Knight. I know his whole deal is that he's kind of nutso because I think he was one of those heroes in the 80s that they would give him a mini series every few years, and each time the creative team would want to do something completely different. And so at some point in the 90s or the 2000s, they were just no, fuck it, we'll just make all of those this thing, which I have to admire. People always say that he's Marvel's Batman, and I just don't see that.
No,
but I like the idea that Marvel's Batman is a character who is like Batman if written by someone who doesn't get Batman. Because that's the thing. That's the thing. Anytime they're like, "This is Marvel's Superman," I'm like, "Sure, it's Marvel's Superman." If the person writing it doesn't get what makes Superman great, to me, Marvel's Superman is Captain America.
Pretty much.
He's the guy with the square jaw who always does the right thing and always finds a way to make it work. And he's from the 40s. But
the difference is, he's from the 40s. But they're very different in their power sets. So you're saying people would look at whoever the most overpowered person is in Marvel and be like, that's Marvel's Superman.
Well, I guess you've gotten to Sentry then, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sentry? Because I hated Sentry until Dark Avengers. And then I was like, oh, Sentry's terrifying.
Sentry is super terrifying.
That's marginally interesting.
Yeah, well, because at first he's just sort of this blonde guy standing around the back looking mopey all the time, and they're all like,
this guy was in prison, but we don't know why.
Yeah, and they're like, be nice to him because he can blow shit up. And he was just like, yeah, I'm kind of sad. And then like he had his girlfriend like locked in his apartment. And it just gets really super weird.
Which was pretty uncool.
It was super uncool. And then...
I feel so bad for his wife. I feel like she's like the... Like, we feel sorry for Sue Storm all the time for having to be married to Reed. I'm like, no.
No, the chick who was married to Sentry, that was bad news.
At least if you're with Reed, you can, like, sneak off and get your little side Namor action. Nothing is going good if you're married to Bob Reynolds.
No. Oh, really not at all. And him plus Norman Osborn, that was a bad, bad scene.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's take people with crazy split personalities, put them in one place, and make them want to rule the universe. That'll go well.
I feel like if I had cared about anything that was going on during that period of Marvel, because that was before I got back into it, I would have probably been really upset at the time with the idea that Norman Osborn kills a alien invader and is suddenly like basically the president.
Right. It was so weird.
But as someone who like went back to it, I thought it was funny and kind of awesome.
Yeah. It was like, well, America's so changeable. Like 1 second it's like, Tony Stark's the best, let's put him in charge of everything. And like 5 seconds later, like, nope, aliens, Tony Stark sucks, fuck him, put Norman Osborn in charge. And I'm like, what? Yes, fickle Americans indeed.
I just find it really weird. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't like a government cabinet position.
No!
Like, the American people can't demand who runs S.H.I.E.L.D.
There seems to be some misunderstanding of how government bureaucracy works in the Marvel Universe, but that's fine. Mm-hmm. My cat has come back.
So I was worried when we did this that it was going to be mostly just us talking about, like, okay, this is what the show's going to be, and we wouldn't find anything to talk about. At all. We haven't done that at all. We've only like gotten to talk about comics, which is really what I want.
Right.
But I wanted to talk about possible segments.
Okay.
I didn't know if we were interested in doing anything like that.
Whatever.
But one idea I had, obviously we're going to talk about what we're reading at the moment and what weird shit we've seen on the internet that's comics related. But one segment idea I thought of was like a spotlight on a like dumb comic book character.
Okay.
Because
are there particular ones that you feel like spotlighting, or?
Oh, I have hundreds. Don't be ridiculous. Like my favorite, and dumb is of course a relative term because like I feel like most comic book characters are dumb until they get like that one moment in the sun or that one series where you're like, no, Hawkeye is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's dumb that he's this guy in purple and that his whole deal is arrows and that they let him be on the Avengers, but that's also kind of awesome.
Right.
So I have like hundreds of characters that I have that same feeling about.
Right. Now, you are saying meh about Hawkeye, and I gotta say, I agree with you in the movies completely. My cat is attacking me. Get down. Sorry about that. We may need to be done because she's like cracking out on me and eating my foot, literally like trying to eat my foot, like put my toes into her mouth. Hawkeye in the movies, I can't stand. I mean,
Still?
he's useful. He was better in this one.
Look, Trevor will back me up on this. I hated him in the first Avengers.
Yeah, it's terrible.
He had a USB drive arrow. And that shit is unacceptable. I will accept a lot of things, but I will not accept the flash drive arrow.
Yeah. No.
But you don't even like the, I'm too old for this shit. My kids are going to hate me. Hawkeye?
That's my favorite Hawkeye so far, and that's because he's the closest to comic book Hawkeye.
That's true.
So, okay. We may need, like I said, I think we need to be done because my cat is seriously, attacking me.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, come up with other ideas, and I definitely want to hear all about what crazy characters you want to talk about. I'm totally down with that.
I already have two in mind that like I really want to talk about. And basically my main idea is like these are characters who will never be in comic movies. Mm-hmm. Like I say that, and yet Batroc the Leaper was in a comic book movie. But in general, like characters that maybe people don't know about, and just talking about like why they're dumb but why they're also awesome. So yeah, okay, you need to go.
Seriously, she's like got crazy eyes.
Okay.
And bird ears.
Well, thank you for coming. This was a lot of fun, and we got to talk for over an hour about comic books, which is the only real reason I want to do this. I don't care if anyone listens. I just want to be able to talk about it.
Shoot the shit for an hour.
Oh yeah, Trevor brings up that I made fun of him relentlessly for liking Hawkeye. I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay. Jack of Hearts in the next film. That sounds interesting.
Damn it! Trevor gave away one of my characters that I wanted to.
I figured that might be one of them, actually, based on the thing you posted the other day about the worst Avengers.
Yeah, that one talked shit about triathlon. Not on my watch.
Who's the dipshit who changes sides in the middle of Civil War?
Nighthawk?
Yes, Nighthawk.
Nighthawk won't be one of mine because I don't care about Nighthawk.
What is the point of that guy? I don't understand.
Wait, Maggie. He's Marvel's Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to go before she actually does physical harm to me.
Okay, well, have a good night. I'm glad we weren't interrupted.
Other than by this crazy 13-year-old grumpy animal. But that happens. Okay, and you hit record, so we'll actually get to listen to it, which is cool.
Yes, it will. All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye, everybody. Kim, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, normally Natasha likes to leave this on for a few more seconds just to ensure that nothing gets cut off. So, again, thank you everyone for coming. I mostly just like having an excuse to talk about comic books for an extended period of time. And I can only, like force feed comic book trivia down Natasha's throat for so long. So, thank you for showing up. If you know anyone else who likes this kind of thing, please let them know. Because I think we've got 40 likes on Facebook, which is, about 30 more than I expected to have, but we'd love to have more. So thank you. Is this going to be the regular time? No, it is not. One True Love Flex might be right. Thank you. No, normally it is going to be Saturday nights because that is one of the few times I can consistently have off. Which isn't to say that we might not every once in a while, throw something together last minute like this, but it's looking like it's going to be Saturday nights, probably around 8 or 9 Central Standard Time. So, yes, Civil War is going to be coming up soon. This Saturday, we're going to be recording it. I'm not sure on the time, but keep an eye out on the Unspoiled Subscribers Only group. We'll be talking about that. Oh crap! You're not a subscriber? Well, you should do that. You are okay. Oh, does Saturday not work for you, Krista? But, right on. So, any other questions? No, I don't think so. This is probably very boring to watch, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. But thanks for showing up, everybody. Have a good night.